ಸಂಸಾರದಾವಾ ನಲಲಿಧಲೋಕ ತ್ರಾಣಾಯ ಕಾರುಣ್ಯ ಗಣ ಗಣಾತ್ವಂ ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತಸ್ಯ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಗುಣಾರ್ಣವಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಪ್ರಾಪ್ತಸ್ಯ ಕಲ್ಯಾಣ ಗುಣಾರ್ಣವಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ
ಮಹಾಪ್ರಭು ಕೀರ್ತನ ನಿತ್ಯ ಗೀತಾ ವಾದಿತ್ರ್ಯಮಾದ್ಯಾನ್ ಮನಸೂರಸೇನಾ
ಮಹಾಪ್ರಭು ಕೀರ್ತನ ನಿತ್ಯ ಗೀತಾ ವಾದಿತ್ರ್ಯಮಾದ್ಯಾನ್ ಮನಸೂರಸೇನಾ
ರೋಮಾಂಚಕಂಪ ಹೃತರಂಗಭಾಜೋ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ರೋಮಾಂಚಕಂಪ ಹೃತರಂಗಭಾಜೋ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಶ್ರೀ ವಿಗ್ರಹಾರಾಧನ ನಿತ್ಯನಾನಾಂ ಶೃಂಗಾರ ತನ್ಮಂದಿರ ಮಾರ್ಜನಾದೋ ಯುಕ್ತಸ್ಯ ಭಕ್ತಾಂ ಚ ನಿಯುಂಜತೋಪಿ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಯುಕ್ತಸ್ಯ ಭಕ್ತಾಂ ಚ ನಿಯುಂಜತೋಪಿ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ
ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ ಚತುರ್ವಿಧಾ ಶ್ರೀ ಭಗವತ್ಪ್ರಸಾದೋ ಸ್ವಾದನ್ನ ತೃಪ್ತಾನ್ ಹರಿಭಕ್ತ ಸಂಗಂ
ಚತುರ್ವಿಧ ಶ್ರೀ ಭಗವತ್ಪ್ರಸಾದೋ ಸ್ವಾದನ್ನ ತೃಪ್ತಾನ್ ಹರಿಭಕ್ತ ಸಂಗಂ
ಕೃತ್ವೈವ ತೃಪ್ತಿನ್ ಭಜತ ಸದೈವ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಕೃತ್ವೈವ ತೃಪ್ತಿನ್ ಭಜತ ಸದೈವ
ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಶ್ರೀರಾಧಿಕಾ ಮಾಧವಯೋರಪಾರ ಮಾಧುರ್ಯ ಲೀಲಾ ಗುಣರೂಪ ನಾಮ್ನಾಂ
ರಾಧಿಕಾ ಮಾಧವಯೋರಪಾರ ಮಾಧುರ್ಯ ಲೀಲಾ ಗುಣರೂಪ ನಾಮ್ನಾಂ
ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ಷಣಾ ಸ್ವಾಧನಲೋಲುಪಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಪ್ರತಿಕ್ಷಣಾ
ಸ್ವಾಧನಲೋಲುಪಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ ನಿಕುಂಜಯೂನೋ ರತಿಕೆಲಿಸಿದ್ಯೈ ಯಾಯಾಲಿಭಿರ್ಯುಕ್ತಿರಪೇಕ್ಷಣೀಯಾ ತತ್ರಾದಿದಾಕ್ಷಾತ್ ಅತಿವಲ್ಲಭಸ್ಯ ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ವಂದೇ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಚರಣಾರವಿಂದಂ
ಸಾಕ್ಷಾದರಿತ್ವೇನ ಸಮಸ್ತಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೈರ್ ಯುಕ್ತಸ್ತಥಾ ಭಾವ್ಯ यत एव सद्भिः
सत्यादरीकेण समस्तशास्त्रैः
युक्तस्तदा भाव्यत एव सद्भिः किन्तु प्रभोया प्रिय एव तस्य वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् यस्य प्रसादात् भगवत्प्रसादो यस्य प्रसादात् न गति कुतोऽपि ध्यायं स्तुवं तस्य यशस्त्रिसन्ध्यान् वन्दे गुरो श्रीचरणरविन्दम् 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 नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदान्त स्वामिन्निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्देशतारिणे
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद
जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि गौर भक्तवृंद जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवसदि
गौरभक्तवृन्दा
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhakta-vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama,
Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. Hari Haraya Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha. यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदनम गिरिधरी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहनम श्री चैतन्य नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत सीता हरि गुरु वैष्णव भगवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथा श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथा हरिहराय नम कृष्ण यादवाय नमः हरिहराय नम कृष्ण यादवाय नमः हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय गुरुदेव
जय विष्णुपार परमहंस प्रभा जगाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शिष्य महाराज ग्रेस अभचर विष्णु भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन प्रतिष्ठा विविधि संस्थापकाचार्य वैष्णव शिरोमणि पातित पावन श्री प्रभुपाद जी महाराज की जय। श्री गौरी गुरु वर्गापति उद्धार की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भक्त रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भक्त दास गुण सदगोस्वामी प्रभु की जय। नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर जी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्री गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। जय परम दयाल से नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय। जय प्रेम नाम संकीर्तन एक जनाक प्रेम पुरुषोत्तम श्री सच्चिदानंद स्मरण गौरंग चैतन्य महाप्रभु गौर हरि महावतार की जय। गोलोकेर प्रमधान हरि नाम संकीर्तन जय की जय। जुग धर्म हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय। प्रियत्मिदांग ट्रांसलेंटल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन सेवा की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ राधा कुंड सम कुंड गिरिराज गोवर्धन की जय। श्री ब्रजभूमि वृंदावन मथुरा धाम की जय। तिलोशिव श्री राधा नील माधव की जय। श्री श्री मायापुर मधु एक चक्रधाम की जय। परम करुण श्री गौर निताय की जय। श्री पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ स्वामी बलदेव प्रभु सुभद्रा देवी रथ यात्रा महोत्सव की जय। सीताराम लक्ष्मण भक्त हनुमान जी की जय। भक्ति सर्व विघ्ना विनाशना कृष्ण हरि भगवान की जाए। गंगा माई जमुना माई की जय, तुलसी महारानी वृंदे देवी भक्ति देवी की जाए, श्रीमती रानी की जय, समवेत भक्त वृंद की जय, निताय गौर हरि प्रमानंदे। All glory to the assembly voice. All glory to the assembly voice. All glory to the assembly voice. All glory goes to Sri Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pralada da 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 ine. Pralada da 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 ine. Hiranyakasipu vaksa. Hiranyakasipu vaksa. Silatangkanakalaye. Jaya Silatangkanakalaye. Ito nishinga parato nishinga. Ito nishinga parato nishinga. Jato jato jamitato nishinga. Jaya jato jato jamitato nishinga. Bahir nishinga, Hrudaye nishinga. Bahir nishinga, Hrudaye nishinga. Narasimha Madhimi Sharanam Prapade. Narasimha Madhimi Sharanam Prapade. Tava Kara Kamala Vare Nakam Adavata Singha. Tarita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa. Kesavadeka Narari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jaya Kesavadita Naradi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jaya Kesavadita Naradi Rupa Jai Jagadisha Re. Jai Jagadisha Re. Jayo Nishengade, Jayo Nishengade, Nishengade, Jayo Nishengade. Jayo Narahare, Jayo Narahare, Narahare, Jayo Narahare. Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha, Jayo Lakshmi Narasimha. Jayo Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Jayo Prahlad Maharaj. श्री भक्ति पद सर्वविघ्नाश न कन सिंह भगवान की जय। भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय। निताय गौर हरि प्रेमानंदे। श्री वृंदाई तुलसी भाई प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमः नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रिय केशव सत्य विष्णु भक्ति प्रादे देवी सतवताय नमो नमः। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय।
Namo Nama Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Nama
Radha Krishna Seva Bhavo Heya Vilasi
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 Jaitomara Sharanaloy Tara Vanchapurna Hoy
Tomara Sharanana Taravancha Purna
Kripa Kori Korotare Vrindavana Vasi Moraya Vilas Vilas Kunjediava
Moraya Kailas Kunja Diyava
Nayane Haribo Sada Jugala Rupayasi
Nayane Rivasada Jugala Ruparasi
Eini Vedana Daro Sakir Anugata Koro
Ele Vedanagara Sakira Yano Gatakara
Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi
Sevayade Kwarade
Seva Adhikara Diye Koro Nijadasi
Sevayade Kwarade
Dina Krishna Dase Koi Eye Namora Hoi Dina Krishna Dase Koi Eye Namora Hoi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi Shri Radha Govinda Preme Sadaye Navasi Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Tyati Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Tyati Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Yani Kani Cha Papani Brahma Tyati Kani Cha Tani Tani Pranashanti Pradakshina Pade Pade Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Tulsi Maharani Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Jaya Vrinda Devi Nitagora Haribo 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 Nitagora Haribo
Shri Vrindayi Tulasi Devai Priyayi Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Vrindayi Tulasi Devai Priyayi Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Vrindai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Shatavatai Namo Namaha Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Oh Tulasi, Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to attend the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of his wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavan. My desire is that you also give me a residence in pleasure grove with Sri Vrindavan Dham. Thus within my vision, I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower Kavya James of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and loaded servant of Krishna praise. May I always sing in love with Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Marjanam Bhavan Mahadavagnirvapanam Shreya Kari Vachandika Vitaranam Vidyavadhujivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pradipadam Purnamika Sadhanam Sarvatmasnam Param Abhijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Idadrusi Tava Kripaya Bhagavan Namati Durgaivam Krishna Jarinandava Vinanati Suditena Dorati Sarishna Amani Namani Dina Nityanata Hari Shri Bhavata Bhakti Raiti Ki Ainandatamadakinkaram Paritamam Visami Bhavam Budal Vipayata Bhapadakam Shaduri Tadisham Vichindu Kirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the frail condition of life of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan moment is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moment. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully test the nectar for which we're always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested your transcendental energies. There is not even a hard and fast rule for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself a lord and strong in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I am falling in this ocean of birth and death. Please bring me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, with my eyes will be decorated with tears of love, flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. Will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand only under the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I feel all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Shri Shri Shukastakam Ki Jai. There are 10 offenses in matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that must be avoided. They are as follows. 1. Propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods, the Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation of the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting of Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which often favours the fruitive activity karma kanda. 9. To instruct the thoughtless person about the glories of the holy name. And 10. To not have complete faith in chanting the holy names and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success, Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our respectful obeisance unto those desire trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned soul.
Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Shanmadyasya yato niviyad vitaratas chate swavigyaswarat.
Janmadyasya yatam vayaditaratascha Tirisvavigyaswara.
Tene Brahma Hridaya Adhikavaye Muyanti Atsurayaha.
Tene Brahma Rudaya Adhikavaye Mojantiya Suraya.
Tejo Varimadam Yata Vinimayo Yatra Trisargom Yasha.
Tejo Varimridam Jata Vinimayo Jatra Trisargam Risya.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva,
O my Lord, Shri Krishna, son of
O
Vasudeva,
all-pervading personality of Godhead,
O all-pervading personality of God,
offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
offer my respectful obeisances unto you.
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth,
I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because the absolute
and the
truth
primeval cause of all causes,
and the primeval cause of all
of the
causes,
creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universe.
of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of manifested universes.
He is directly and indirectly conscious of all
He
manifestations,
is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations.
and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond
And
him.
he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him.
It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji,
It is the only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge into the heart of Brahma.
the original living being.
The original living being.
By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion,
By him even the great sage and demigods are placed
as
into
one is
illusion.
bewildered by the illusory representation
As one is bewildered by the illusory representation
of water seen in fire or land seen in water.
of water seen the five lands in the world.
Only because of him do the material universes,
Only because of him do the material universe
temporarily manifested by reactions of the three modes of nature,
temporarily manifested by the reaction of three modes
appear factual although they are unreal.
appear factual, although they are unreal.
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Shri Krishna,
I therefore meditate upon him, Lord
who is
Shri Krishna,
eternally existent in the transcendental abode,
who is eternally existent and transcendental,
which is
abode,
forever free from the illusory representations in the material world.
which is forever free from the illusory representation of material
I
world.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute
I
truth.
meditate upon him, for he is the absolute
Dharma
truth.
Pujita Kaitrovocha
Dharma Pujita Kaito
Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam
Paramo Nirmasaranam
Vedyam
Satam
Vastavam Atra Vastu
Vidyam Vastavam Astra Vastu
Shivadam Tapatrayon
Shivadam Taputrayo Mulanam
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamani Krite
Shrimad Bhagavate Mahamuni
Kim Va Parir Ishvaraha
Kimva Paririshvara
Sadyo Hridi Avarudyate Tra
Sadhyurudhi Avarija Titra
Kriti Bihi Susubhistakshana,
Vitibhi Shushushuvista Kyanat,
completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated.
completely rejecting all religious activities to material
This
motivation.
Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth,
This Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth,
which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart.
which is understandable by those boys who are fully pure. in
The
heart.
highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
The highest truth, the reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all.
Such truth uproots the threefold miseries.
Such a truth uproots the threefold misery.
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity
This beautiful Bhagavatam compiled by great sage Vyasadeva's maturity.
is sufficient in itself for God realization.
It is sufficient itself for God realization.
What is the need of any other scripture?
What is the name of the other
As
scripture?
soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam,
by this culture of knowledge,
by this culture of
the
knowledge,
Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
the Supreme Lord is established within his heart.
Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam,
Nigama kalpatoror galitam phalam,
sukhamukad amrita dravya sanvitam,
shuka mukhad amrita drav sangitam,
pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam,
vivata bhagavatam rasamlayam,
muhur aho raska bhuvibhavakaha.
mura hora sika bhuvibhavaka.
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam,
O expert and thoughtful man, relish Bhagavatam.
the mature fruit of the desired truth Vedic literatures.
Mature fruit, the desired tree of Vedic
It
literatures.
emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami.
It emanated from the lips of Shishukadeva Goswami.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful.
Therefore, this fruit has become even more
Although its
tasteful.
nectar and juice was already relishable for all,
Although its nectar and juice was so relishable for all,
including liberated souls.
including liberated souls.
Shinvatam Swakata Krishna,
Shrimvatam Swakata Krishna,
Punya Shravana Kirtana,
Punya Shravana Kirtanam,
Hridyantaksto Hiyabadrani,
Hridyantasto Hyabadrani,
Vidunati Suhit Satam.
Vidunoti
To hear
Suritsatam.
about Krishna from Vedic literatures,
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic
or to hear
literatures,
from him directly directly through the Bhagavad Gita
or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita
is itself righteous activity.
is itself righteous activity.
And for one who hears about Krishna,
And for one who hears about Krishna,
Lord Krishna, who's dwelling in everyone's heart,
Lord Krishna is dwelling within everyone's
acts
heart,
as a best wishing friend,
acts as the best wishing
and
friend,
purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing with him.
Nastapresu bhadresu
Nastapeshvabhadreshu
nityam bhagavata sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata
bhagavati uttamasloke
Bhagavati Uttamasloki
dear Bhagavati Naistaki.
Bhakti Bhavati Nastiki.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge.
In this way, the devotee naturally develops dormant transcendental
As
knowledge.
he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
As he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam
and from the devotees,
and from the devotees,
he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord.
he becomes fixed in devotional service of the Lord.
Tadarajastamo bhava
Tadarajastamo bhava
amalobhadayaschaye
Kamalobhadayaschaye
chita itairanavidam
Chaitaitaranavidam
sitam sattve prasidati.
Sitam Sadve Prasidati.
By development of devotional service,
By development of devotional service,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance,
one becomes freed from the modes of passion of ignorance,
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
and thus material lust and avarice are diminished.
Evam prasana manasu
Evam prasanamanaso
bhagavat bhakti yogataha
Bhagavad Bhakti Yogata
bhagavat tattva vijnanam
Bhagavad Tattva Vijnana
mukta sangasya jayate.
Mukta Sangha Sajayate.
When these impurities are wiped away,
When these impurities are
the
wiped,
candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness,
the candidate remains steady in position of pure
becomes
goodness,
enlivened by devotional service,
becomes enlivened by devotional service,
and understands the science of God perfectly.
and understands the science of God perfectly.
Vidyate hridaya grantis
Vidyate Hridaya Granti
chidyante sarva samsaya
Chidyante Sarvasamsaya
siyante chasya karmani
Jyante Chasakarma
atmanishvare.
Buddha Evan Manishvari.
Thus bhakti yoga severs the hard knot of material affection
That's the Bhakti Yoga service, the heart of material affection,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of a samsayam samagram,
and enables one to come at once to the stage of Samsham Samagrama,
understanding of the supreme absolute truth personality of Godhead.
understanding the supreme absolute truth personality of God.
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotee in Krishna consciousness
Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his devotees in Krishna consciousness
can one understand the science of Krishna.
can one understand the science of Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavata, Canto 2, Chapter 5, verse number 18.
Guru Vastakam?
Yeah, okay. Shri Guru Vastakam Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on the forest fire to extinguish it.
The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as the cloud pours water on the forest fire to
So the
extinguish it.
spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
So the spiritual master delivers the material afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence.
I offer my respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet, such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious
Chanting the holy
qualities.
name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments.
Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical
The
instruments.
spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu,
The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan moment of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
because he's relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his heart.
Because you're relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind.
Sometimes his hair stands on end.
Sometimes the hair stands on the
He
end.
feels quivering in his body,
He feels quivering in his
and
body.
tears flow from his eyes like
And
waves.
tears flow from his eyes like
I offer my
waves.
respectful obeisance to Lotus Feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Radha and Krishna.
The spiritual master is also engaged in the temple worship of Shri Radha and
He also
Krishna.
engages his disciples in such worship.
He also engages disciples in such
They
worship.
dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments,
They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments.
clean their temple,
Clean their
and
temple
perform other similar worship of the Lord.
and perform other similar worship of the
I
Lord.
offer my respectful obeisance unto Lotus Feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food.
Analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
Analyze that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked.
When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada,
When the spiritual master sees the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavad Prasad,
he is satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
Offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava,
The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and
and their
Madhava,
qualities, names, and forms.
and their qualities, names, and
The
forms.
spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment.
The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every
I
moment.
offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual
The
master.
spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavana.
The spiritual master is very good because he's expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan.
I offer my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
I offer my respectful obeisance to the lotus feet of such a spiritual master.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord.
The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant of the Lord.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities.
Therefore, I offer my most respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna.
Therefore, I offer my humble obeisance unto the Lord of such a spirit master, who is the bona fide representative of Sri Hari Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Krishna.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any spiritual advancement.
Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master.
At least 3 times a day, I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the Lord's feet, O my spiritual master.
Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam.
Ishvara Parama Krishna Sakchit Ananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarvakarana Karana
Chintamani Prakara Sukalpa Vriksha
Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukalpa Vriksha
Laksha Vrite Susurabir Abhipalayantam
Lakshya Vitesi Surabhira Bhipalayam
Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam
Lakshmi Sahasha Satasambhrama Shevamam
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamam Bhajami
Venam Kanantam Aravinda Dalayataksam
Venum Vanantam Aravinda Dayalataka
Bharhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam
Param Vata Samasitam Buddha Sundaram
Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham
Andarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobha
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Alola Chandra Kalasad Vanamalya Vamsi
Alola Chandra Kalasad Vanamalya Vamsi
Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam
Ranangadam Pranayakeli Kalavilasam
Shyamam Tribanga Lalita Niyata Prakasam
Syamam Tribhanga Lalitam Niyata Prakasham
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti
Angani Yasya Sakalendriya Vrittimanti
Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti
Pasyanti Panti Kalayanti Chiram Jaganti
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya
Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Advaitam Ajutam Anadim Anantarupam
Advaitam Achutam Anandim Anantarum
Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanam cha
Adyam Purana Purusham Navajauvanam cha
Vede Sudurlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto
Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo
Pantastu Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo
Vayoratapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam
Vayor Atapi Manaso Muni Pungavanam
Sopyasti Yat Prapadasim Yavichintya Tatve
Sopyasti Ya Prapadasim Vichincichatadve
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Yad Bhava Bhavita Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva
Eko
I'm sorry, do we do? No, okay.
Eko
Ekopya Sora Chayatum Jagadanda Kotim
Eko Pyasura Jayitum Jagananda Koti
Yaschaktirasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta
Yachaktirasti Jagananda Jaya Jadanda
Andantaramsta Paramanu Chayantarastam
Adantarasta Paramanu Chayantarashtam
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindam Adi Purusham
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajastataiva
Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manujastataiva
Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayanubhushaha
Saprampya Rupa Mahima Sanayana
Suptaryameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti
Shuktir Yameva Nigama Pratitaistuvanti
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami
Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 5, text number 18. Sattvam Rajastama iti
Sadvam Rajatama Iti
Nirgunasya Gunastvaya
Gunasham Gunasvaya
Stiti Sarga Nirodesu
Yati Sargani Veshu
Vihita Mayaya Vibho.
Mayaya Vivu
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities. Yet, for the sake of the creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. The Supreme Lord is the master of the external energy manifested by the three material modes, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. And as master of this energy, he is ever unaffected by the influence of such bewildering energy. The living entities, the jivas, however, are affected by or susceptible to being influenced by such modes of material nature. That is the difference between the Lord and the living entities. The living entities are subjected by these qualities, although originally the living entities are qualitatively one with the Lord. In other words, the material modes of nature, being products of the energy of the Lord, are certainly connected with the Lord, but the connection is just like that between the master and the servants. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the material energy, whereas the living entities who are entangled in the material world are neither masters nor controllers. Rather, they become subordinate to or controlled by such energy. Factually, the Lord is eternally manifested by his internal potency or spiritual energy, just like the sun and its rays in a clear sky. But at times he creates the material energy as the sun creates a cloud in the clear sky. As the sun is ever increasingly unaffected by a spot of cloud, so also the unlimited Lord is unaffected by the spot of material energy manifested at times in the unlimited span of the Lord's rays of Brahma Jyoti. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The Supreme Lord is pure spiritual form, transcendental to all material qualities, yet for the sake of the creation of the material world and its maintenance and annihilation, he accepts through his external energy the material modes of nature called goodness, passion, and ignorance. So in the previous verse yesterday. There was a point that I wanted to make that we didn't get time to go over it. And Prabhupada says near the end of the purport yesterday, the subtle presence of the Lord is felt by the intelligent man who can study the psychic effects of thinking, feeling, and willing. Now, this is an extremely important statement. Before there's any action, there are 3 psychological steps that one has to go through, and those are thinking, feeling, and willing. So, what does that mean exactly? Well, just like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, that while contemplating the objects of senses, one develops attachment. And from such attachment comes lust. And from lust comes anger. And from anger, bewilderment. And when there's bewildered, there's loss of memory. And thus one falls down into the whirlpool of material nature. So this is the process by which people become entangled, because they don't see properly. Just like the mother sees her child properly, with love, with devotion, with protection, like that. But the child molester sees this same child, but with the desire of exploiting, dominating, and enjoying the child in a very perverted way. So 2 people are looking at the same thing. One is looking correctly, and well, correctly would be even more than what I described. Correctly would be the mother would see that this child is the part and parcel of Krishna. It actually belongs to Krishna. It doesn't belong to her. And that the child has a spirit soul that's different than the body, and so forth. That would be the actual correct way of seeing. But secondarily, the mother sees the child with the desire to protect the child, to instruct the child, to be a good person, and oftentimes with feelings of affection for the child and so forth. But the same child is seen by the child molester as an object to be enjoyed, exploited, dominated, and inflict pain and suffering. So how you see things is called the philosophy. Now, there's good philosophy and bad philosophy. So the mother sees the child as a jiva that's eternally connected to Krishna, sees correctly. And the child molester sees the child as an object, not even a human being, an object to be exploited, sees incorrectly. So how we see things correctly is called philosophy. And how we see things incorrectly is called illusion and ignorance. So, therefore it says, Dhyato vishayam pumsa sangateshu pujayate sangat sanjayate kama kama kroda vijayate. Krodahat bhavati samhoha samahat smriti vibrama smriti brahmsad buddhinaso buddhinasat pranasyati. So, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, anger arises. And then, from anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost, and when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool, or the material cesspool, as it could be said. So, this is the dilemma that the jiva goes through when it revolts against Krishna. So, by that revolt, against the authority of Krishna, and the attempt to become a Krishna, a little Krishna in the material world, and control and enjoy things and exploit things, etc. The jiva becomes hopelessly entangled in the modes of material by the modes of material nature and the time factor, and becomes infected with lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, and envy. And it's hopelessly entangled, and always thinking about sense gratification, always thinking about making more money, always developing friends and enemies, always being overwhelmed by the duality of cause and effect, or the dualities of life and the entanglement of cause and effect. So this is basically a hopeless situation for the jiva, and it all begins by not seeing things correctly. So, therefore, this Vedic education of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is absolutely essential. And it should be learned early in life. If we don't teach this to our kids, we are condemning them. The very kids that we're supposed to love and protect, we are condemning them and leaving them completely helplessly floating in a world of illusion. And it's a crime. It is a punishable crime. That's why one has no right to be a mother or father or a guru unless they can save their dependents. And there's a verse like that in the Shastra. One does not have the right to be a parent or a teacher or a guru unless they can save their dependents. And you save them by teaching them Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. This is real education. Anything else is not education. It's simply entangling people more and more in the modes of material nature and keeping them prisoners of illusion. So, Prabhupada says, by development of Krishna consciousness, this is second chapter, verses 62 and 63, by development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of Krishna. This is what happens when you become actually Krishna conscious. You can use everything in the service of Krishna. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects. And as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. What is the perfect stage of renunciation? It's using everything correctly in the service of Krishna. So you see the difference between Mayavad philosophy and Krishna conscious philosophy. The Mayavadis, they don't know how to use everything. They reject everything. That's why it's such a nonsense philosophy. They reject everything. Whereas a devotee accepts everything as long as they know how to use it in Krishna's service. Okay. And that's called knowledge, how to use everything in Krishna's service. And as long as we have the imperfect understanding of how to use everything in Krishna's service, we renounce things. Just like the Mayavadis, they have renounced Vaikuntha. They have renounced Goloka. They have renounced Krishna, Nanda Maharaj, Yasoda Mai, all the liberated souls in the spiritual world. They have renounced the spiritual world. As I've said before, the original cancel culture was started by the Mayavadis. They canceled Krishna, they canceled Vaikuntha, they canceled Goloka, they canceled all the gopis and all the cows, the Sarabis and the Kamadhenas and the Kalpavriksha and all those things. They renounced all that. See? So they're nonsense. They're actually evil because they're denying people the opportunity to attain real liberation from the cycle of birth and death. And that's because they're envious of Krishna, and they're puffed up with their false speculations. And they're trying to peddle that miserable understandings to innocent people. See? And they call themselves Jagat Guru and Sad Guru and this type of Guru and that type of Guru. Actually, they're Kanguru. They're not Guru. See? And they're basically demons. Right? So it says here that their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord, or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas for example, for an impersonalist, the Lord, or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. In other words, they don't believe that Krishna can eat. They don't believe Krishna exists. Right? Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables, a devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. Well, yesterday, Rasavati Mataji and the other devotees that helped her made very delicious eggplant parmesan. And some of the devotees made very delicious gajar halva. And Mataji and her helpers made very delicious rice pulao and some tomato chutney to mix with the rice pulao. And our Pankaj Prabhu made very delicious dokla, right, with some chutney. There was chutney, right? Yeah, green chutney, right? And this was our feast. And of course there was juice, fresh juice, orange and apple mixed. And there was grilled corn with butter and salt and maybe some black pepper, I'm not sure. So, this was nectar. What do you think? Was it good? It was fantastic, right? Everybody had a great time, and Jagannath Ratha Yatra, chanting Hare Krishna and dancing. This is knowledge. This is real life. And in the farm area where there were vegetables and cows, it's like Goloka, right? So, this is real life. This is real knowledge. How to grow your own food, how to protect cows. Krishna is a cowherd boy. There's no occupation greater than protecting cows and lovingly serving them. And then they become like Kamadhenu or Surabhi, and they can give you peace and happiness and love and prosperity. This is knowledge. This is what it should be taught to people. You don't eat cows. This man that I invited yesterday, this real estate agent who was very instrumental in helping us buy this new property in Arlington, he said, "This is the first time I've eaten a vegetarian meal." He was serious. He's 75 years old. He said, "This is the first time I've eaten a vegetarian meal." And he said, and then while he started eating, he said, he said, "This is really good." He said, "I think I could eat this all the time." And he said, "Oh, there must be some meat in this," because there was one Nutrella, the American name for that is soy. No, this is another name for it. Anyway, it's soybean derivative, and he said, "Oh, you got some meat in it." I said, "No, this is a soy nugget. Oh, really? He said, I thought it was meat. Yeah, he sees meat everywhere, right? So this is knowledge. This is life. This is the real life. This is what we have to teach our kids. You protect cows, Krishna protects you. You protect cows, there will be prosperity. You protect cows, there will be peace. You grow your own food, you're on your way to becoming completely self-sufficient, right? All you need is milk and grains, and then the vegetables and fruits and nuts, they're just extra. People live on food and grains. Anambhavanti bhutani parjanyat anasambhava. So this is real life. And then Prabhupada says here, so after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants, called prasadam. The Mayavadis, they avoid good food. And they don't offer anything to Krishna. And so they don't know how to enjoy life. They're always talking about this is Maya and this is not Maya. This is good, this is bad. This is good, this is bad. It's all cancellation things. So thus everything becomes spiritualized. Yes. Your food becomes spiritualized. Everything in your life becomes spiritualized by using it in the service of Krishna. And there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam and Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. This is what happened to Vishwamrita Muni. He was meditating for 60,000 years and he fell down several times. That's why he had to meditate 60,000 years, you know. And and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. In other words, if a person doesn't engage in devotional service, even though they become a perfect yogi, like Durvasa Muni, they will fall down. See? Without devotional service, one cannot really make, and devotional service under the guidance of bona fide guru, then one will spoil whatever they've done in human life. The end result will be failure. Okay, so then it says, Krishna says, Ragadesha vimuktaisthu. This is a very nice verse. And it says, Vishan Indriyais Charan. Atma Vaisya Videyatma Prasadam Adigachati. He says, but a person free from all attachment and aversion, that means attachment and hatred, and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom, can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So this is what initiation is. You're introduced to the regulative principles of freedom. Freedom from what? Freedom from lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, envy. Freedom from sleeping in. Instead of coming to the class, you sleep in. You sleep in what? You sleep in stool. Okay. And freedom from selfish self-aggrandizement, just collecting more and more things and money and complicating life with gadgets and this thing and that thing. You can't have simple living, high thinking. You have complicated living and low thinking, which means low stinking. Right? So we have to learn what is real life. Real life is not working hard like an ass, always worried, always with deadlines you have to meet. You have to pay this tax, and you have to pay that tax, and you have to get this insurance and that insurance, and you have to get this maintenance and that maintenance. And over and over again, it's all entanglement. See? So, therefore, the devotees learn how to actually be happy and have a simple life and depend completely on the mercy of Krishna. Whereas the others, all the dumbbells, they're depending on the mercy of Bhakta Joe Biden. Actually, it's Abhakta Joe. And, Gates and Bezos and Ellison and this one and that. They're all nonsense people. But they're depending on their mercy. You cannot depend on the mercy of a selfish person. You will be exploited. And when you cannot be useful anymore, they kick you out. Get out. You're fired. Say, here's a little pittance. Go and struggle some more in the material world. So the struggle for existence is experienced by people who don't know how to downsize, who don't know how to have simple life and high thinking. They have complicated life and low thinking. And they're always in trouble. There's always, it's the Beatles used to sing, "Sue me, sue you blues." Yeah, even the Beatles broke apart and they sued each other. So they wrote a book, "Sue me, sue you blues." So that's what material life is. You're always on the verge of being sued by someone, your neighbor, the IRS, someone you have an accident, they're going to sue you, or some mistake you make, and so forth. So Prabhupada says, it's in verse 64, the second chapter, "It is already explained that one may externally control the senses by some artificial process. But unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there's every chance of a fall." Now that we should think of very carefully, especially those who are initiated. That is, but unless the senses are engaged in the transcendental service of the Lord, there is every chance of a fall or fall down. Although the person in full Krishna consciousness may apparently be on the sensual plane, because of his being Krishna conscious, he has no attachment to sensual activities. So, yeah, it looks like, let's say a devotee is married, it looks like he's on the sensual plane, or she is on the sensual plane. They have to have a house, they have to have a washing machine, they have to have a dryer, they have to have a car, they have a car, a credit card, and insurance this, insurance that, So that looks like the sensual plane, and they have a bed. I remember one time this one family invited me to their home to do a house blessing. They bought a new home. And in the beginning, we walked through the whole home, and the lady of the house sprinkles Ganges water, and we were reciting mantras and chanting Hare Krishna. And when we get to the main bedroom, there's a gigantic bed, right? And this is where the husband and wife sleep. That is not Krishna consciousness. That's material consciousness. Traditionally, in the Vedic home, the man and the women sleep in separate bedrooms or separate places. So you might say, well, how do you have children then? Well, that is done obviously in private, but in regular time, they sleep apart. They don't sleep in the same bed, right? And so when you go to a house and there's one big gigantic bed, and some of these beds are extremely expensive. They can cost $3,000 to $5,000, even up to $10,000. One side is electronically controlled, and you get you can control the hardness or the softness of the bed on that side, and the other side you have another control. The other person can control the hardness or softness of the bed. Now, why do they make such a complicated bed? just so that both people can sleep together. But that's not very conducive for being Krishna conscious. Right? So all these things, these modern amenities, they're usually to promote sense gratification, to keep people in a dependent situation and always trying to enjoy, but enjoy means you become more conditioned by the modes of material nature and more of a prisoner rather than freedom. So this verse that we're reading today is about freedom. And it says, but a person free from attachment and aversion, that means affection and hate, or attachment to something, or a person, or a thing, and then hatred if you lose it, or become angry, and able to control his senses through regulative principles. So these regulative principles, well, one regulation is go to bed early, and another regulation is wake up early, and chant your rounds, take a bath, come to Mangala Aarti, listen to class, engage in, morning and evening temple activities. So these are regulative principles. No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication. All these things are called regulative principles. And what happens? You're able to control the senses. And what happens? You become free of attachment and of love and hate, of all these dualities, happiness and distress, of riches and poverty, of sickness and health. All these dualities keep a person in illusion. So we're talking about freedom. So therefore, Prabhupada says, the Krishna conscious person is concerned only with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Therefore, he is transcendental to all attachment and detachment. So devotee is neither attached nor detached. Okay, then you say, well, what is he then? He's dedicated to Krishna. That's the third thing. Dedicated to Krishna. Not attached, not detached. In other words, he can do something that he would not do normally in order to serve Krishna. And he'll not do something that he would do normally in order to serve Krishna. See? So there's no attachment, no detachment. There's only dedication to Krishna. So then if Krishna wants, the devotee can do anything which is ordinarily undesirable. And if Krishna does not want, he shall not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. Therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna or bona fide Siksha and Diksha Gurus. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of his being attached to the sensual platform. We're all taught to be attached to the sensual platform through publicity, through family, through relatives, through school and mundane teachers. They're teaching. What they're teaching is not knowledge. What they're teaching is this attachment to sensuality. That's what they're teaching. Oh, you got a new watch. Oh, you got a new car. Oh, you this perfume you have was really nice. Oh, this mascara is gorgeous. Oh, these earrings are nice. Oh, these nylon stockings, they're beautiful. Oh, you have one stocking that's red and another one that's blue. That's really nice. Oh, you got the Gucci shoes and you got the Saint Laurent perfume and, all nonsense. See? Nowadays they make dresses for women. It shows one leg completely naked, right, going right up to the crotch. It's a dress. Or with the 3/4 of the breast showing, right? So your one leg is showing right up to the crotch, and then 3/4 of the breasts are showing. Right? So, and the woman's always adjusting the dress like this to make sure her breasts don't come out. It's crazy. What kind of? It's the same thing as some jitterbug walking down the street with his pants almost falling off, and you can see his underwear, right? and he has to walk in a funny way like this, and this is a new style. This is all nonsense stuff, right? But it's become a fad, right? Okay, so then Prabhupada says, therefore, to act or not to act is within his control because he acts only under the direction of Krishna. This consciousness is the causeless mercy of the Lord, which the devotee can achieve in spite of being attached to the sensual platform. Okay. And then next verse says, Prasade sarvadukanam hanir asyo bhajayate prasanacheta sohyasu buddhi parya vastistate. For one thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries of material existence exist no longer. In such satisfied consciousness, one's intelligence is soon well established. So, this is an amazing verse. It's saying that if you become satisfied by following Krishna consciousness, the threefold miseries, Adi Bhuta, Adi Deva, Adi Atma, are no longer experienced. You become free of them. So that is a great benediction. Basically, it's saying the struggle for existence stops, ends. You're not struggling anymore all the time. You're ahead of the curve instead of being tied up in the curve. So this is Krishna consciousness. And then an example of this is Haridas Thakur. He was born a Muslim. He's not born a Hindu. He was born a Muslim in a meat-eating family. Like myself, I was born in a meat-eating family, not knowing anything about Vedic Dharma. So it says in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya Lila, chapter 11. So it says, the next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Haridasa's place and inquired from him, Haridas, are you well? So Haridas Thakur had become very old, and his health was failing. Right? He was still chanting 23 and a half hours a day, Hare Krishna. But it was difficult now because he was ailing. So Haridas offered his obeisances to the Lord and replied, my body is all right, but my mind and intelligence are not well. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired from Haridas, can you ascertain what your disease is? Haridas Thakur replied, my disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. He didn't say my disease is old age, my disease is diabetes. No, he said, my disease is that I cannot complete my rounds. Purport, if one cannot complete the fixed number of rounds he is assigned, he should be considered to be in a diseased condition of spiritual life. Srila Haridas Thakur is called Namacharya. Of course, we cannot imitate Haridas Thakur, but everyone must chant a prescribed number of rounds. In our Krishna consciousness movement, we have fixed 16 rounds as the minimum so that the Westerners will not feel burdened. These 16 rounds must be chanted and chanted loudly so that one can hear himself and others. No chanting silently, right? Although silent chanting is not forbidden, but Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya Lord Chaitanya is recommending that they should be chanted loud enough that you can hear and someone next to you can hear. Then, now Lord Chaitanya is saying, now that you have become old, Haridas, the Lord said, you may reduce the number of rounds you chant daily. You are already liberated, and therefore you need not follow the regulative principles very strictly. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Unless one has come to the platform of spontaneous love of God, he must follow the regulative principles. Thakura Haridasa was the living example of how to follow the regulative principles. Similarly, Raghunath Dasa Goswami was also such a living example. In the Sad Goswami Astaka, it is stated, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Nati Bihi Kala Visani Krito. The Goswamis, especially Raghunath Das Goswami, strictly followed all the regulative principles. The first regulative principle is that one must chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra loudly enough so that he can hear himself, and one must vow to chant a fixed number of rounds. Not only was Raghunath Dasa Goswami chanting a fixed number of rounds, but he had also taken a vow to bow down many times and offer obeisances to the Lord. Every time he saw a Vaishnava, he bowed down, a full Dandavat. He was giving Dandavat 3,000 times a day, besides chanting 24 hours a day, basically. Then Lord Chaitanya continues, your role in this incarnation is to deliver the people in general. You have sufficiently preached the glories of the holy name in this world. So Lord Chaitanya now is glorifying Haridas Thakura. And in the purport, Prabhupada says, Haridas Thakura is known as Namacharya because it is he who preached the glories of chanting Harinama, the holy name of God. By using the words Tomara Avatara, your incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that Haridas Thakur is the incarnation of Lord Brahma. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakura says that advanced devotees help the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his mission, and that such devotees or personal associates incarnate by the will of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord incarnates by his own will, and by his will, competent devotees also incarnate to help him in his mission. Haridasa Thakura is thus the incarnation of Lord Brahma, and other devotees are likewise incarnations who help in the prosecution of the Lord's mission. So, here Haridas Thakur is born in a Muslim family, a meat-eating family. But he becomes the Namacharya, the Acharya, or the best teacher of how to chant Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So then Lord Chaitanya concluded, now therefore, please, Haridas, reduce the fixed number of times you chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Haridas Thakur replied, kindly hear my real plea. He's saying, finally listen to my begging you for the following. I was born in an inferior family, and my body is most abominable. I am always engaged in low work. Therefore, I am the lowest, most condemned of men. I am unseeable and untouchable, but you have accepted me as your servant. This means that you have delivered me from a hellish condition and raised me to the Vaikuntha platform. My dear Lord, you are the fully independent personality of Godhead. You act by your own free will. You cause the whole world to dance and act as you like. My dear Lord, by your mercy you have made me dance in many ways. For example, I was offered the Shraddha Patra, which should have been offered to a first-class brahmana. I ate from it even though I was born in a family of meat-eaters. The Shraddha Patra is offered to the best brahmana by the son of a father or mother who's passed away. Right? So, therefore, in the purport, Prabhupada says, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, in his Anubhashya, quotes from the Vishnu Smriti in reference to the Shraddha Patra. Brahmana pasada hyete katita pankriti dushala. Dusaka, According to this verse, if one is born in a Brahmana family but does not behave according to Brahminical standards, he should not be offered the Shraddha Patra, which is prasadam offered to the forefathers. Advaitacharya offered the Shraddha Patra to Haridas Thakur, not to a Brahmana who had been born in a Brahmana family, although Haridas Thakur was born in the family of meat eaters. Because he was an advanced devotee, he was shown more respect than a first-class Brahmana. I have had one desire for a very long time, Haridas said. I think that quite soon, my Lord, you will bring to a close your pastimes within this material world. I wish that you not show me this closing chapter of your pastimes. Before that time comes, kindly let my body fall down in your presence. Basically, he's saying, look, I don't think I would be able to witness your leaving this world. It would be too painful for me. Let me die now before you disappear. So, I wish to catch your lotus-like feet upon my heart and see your moon-like face. With my tongue I shall chant your holy name, Shri Krishna Chaitanya. That is my desire. Kindly let me give up my body in this way. So he's saying, let me die now, but holding on to your lotus feet and looking at your beautiful face. O most merciful Lord, if by your mercy it is possible, kindly grant my desire. Let this low-born body fall down before you. You can make possible this perfection of all my desires. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my dear Haridas, Krishna is so merciful that he must execute whatever you want. But whatever happiness is mine is all due to your association. So Lord Chaitanya says, the only happiness I feel in my life is your association, Haridas. It is not fitting for you to go away and leave me behind. Catching the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, do not create an illusion. Although I am so fallen, you must certainly show me this mercy. My Lord, there are many responsible personalities, millions of devotees who are fit to sit on my head. They are all helpful in your pastimes. My Lord, if an insignificant insect like me dies, what is the loss? If an ant dies, where is the loss to the material world? My Lord, you are always affectionate to your devotees. I am just an imitation devotee, but nevertheless, I wish that you fulfill my desire. That is my expectation. Because he had to perform his noon duties, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu got up to leave, but it was settled that the following day, after he saw Lord Jagannath, he would return to visit Haridas Thakur. After embracing him, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left to perform his noon duties and went to the sea to take his bath. The next morning, after visiting the Jagannatha temple, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, accompanied by all his devotees, went hastily to see Haridas Thakur. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the devotees came before Haridas Thakur, who offered his respects to the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and all the Vaishnavas. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, my dear Haridas, what is the news? Haridas replied, my Lord, whatever mercy you can bestow upon me. Upon hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately began great congregational chanting in the courtyard. Vakraswara Pandita was the chief dancer. Headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu surrounded Haridas Thakura and began congregational chanting. In front of all the great devotees like Ramananda Rai and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu began to describe the holy attributes of Haridas Thakura. As he described the transcendental attributes of Haridas Thakura, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seemed to possess 5 mouths. The more he described, the more his great happiness increased. After hearing of the transcendental qualities of Haridas Thakura, all the devotees present were struck with wonder. They all offered their respectful obeisances to the lotus feet of Haridas Thakura. Haridas Thakura made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sit down in front of him, and then he fixed his eyes like 2 bumblebees on the lotus face of the Lord. He held the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on his heart, and then took the dust of the feet of all the devotees present and put it on his head. He began to chant the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya again and again, and he drank the sweetness of the face of the Lord. Tears constantly glided down from his eyes. While chanting the holy name of Sri Krishna Chaitanya, he gave up his air of life and left his body. Seeing the wonderful death of Haridas Thakura by his own will, which was just like a great mystic yogi's, everyone remembered the passing away of Bhisma. There was a tumultuous noise as they all chanted the holy names of Hari and Krishna. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became overwhelmed with ecstatic love. The Lord raised the body of Haridas Thakura and placed it on his lap. Then he began to dance in the courtyard in great ecstatic love. Because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's ecstatic love, all the devotees were helpless. And in ecstatic love, they also began to dance and chant congregationally. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced for some time, and then Swarup Damodar Goswami informed him of other rituals for the body of Thakur Haridasa. The body of Haridas Thakur was then raised onto a carrier that resembled an airship and taken to the sea, accompanied by congregational chanting. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced in front of the procession, and Vakraswara Pandit, along with the other devotees, chanted and danced behind him. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed the body of Haridas Thakura in the sea and then declared, "From this day on, this sea has become a great pilgrimage site." Everyone drank the water that had touched the lotus feet of Haridas Thakura, and then they smeared remnants of Lord Jagannath's sandalwood pulp over Haridas Thakura's body. After a hole was dug in the sand and the body of Haridas Thakura was placed into it, remnants from Lord Jagannatha, such as his silken robes, sandalwood pulp, food, and cloth, were placed on the body. All around the body, the devotees performed congregational chanting, and Vakraswara Pandit danced in jubilation. With his transcendental hands, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu personally covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand, chanting Haribol, Haribol. The devotees covered the body of Haridas Thakur with sand and then constructed a platform upon the site. The platform was protected all around by fencing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu danced and chanted all around the platform, and as the holy name of Hari roared tumultuously, the whole universe became filled with the vibration. After Sankirtana, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathed in the sea with his devotees, swimming and playing in the water in great jubilation. After circumambulating the tomb of Haridas Thakura, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the Simha Dwara gate of the Jagannath temple. The whole city chanted in congregation, and the tumultuous sound vibrated all over the city. Approaching the Simha Dwara gate, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spread his cloth and began to beg prasadam from all the shopkeepers there. "I am begging prasadam for a festival honoring the passing away of Haridasa Thakura," the Lord said. "Please give me alms." Hearing this, all the shopkeepers immediately came forward with big baskets of prasadam, which they jubilantly delivered to Lord Chaitanya. Okay, so you get an idea of the ecstatic passing of Haridas Thakur. He was the Namacharya, the great teacher of how to chant Hare Krishna. And we learn here that one must chant their rounds every day. It's absolutely necessary. It's the most important promise that you make. And it should be chanted loudly enough that you can hear it, and if someone is next to you, they can hear it also. And also with great attention, because chanting Hare Krishna is our most essential link to Krishna. It's the most essential. If yoga means connecting to the Lord, well, the closest connection we can make is by chanting the holy name lovingly and engaging in the service of the Lord and associating favorably with the devotees and cooperating and doing everything necessary to spread Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay.